you're, just growing your one name. But if you're somebody like Barrington who's been around for a couple of years and has been able to connect with thousands of fans, it benefits him to keep working for different companies because he understands probably better than most in South Florida how to market yourself and how to reach like new and different unique audiences. So with everything going on in MLW, I think it's a great thing for me personally. Um, they're allowing more opportunity for other people, and that's bottom line. That's what it is with me. Is if other companies are growing and forming, it's more opportunity. So at the end of the day, it's just what you do as a performer.
All right, Barrington, I'll throw this one over to you then next.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Basically, what I'm asking is, with all these companies coming around and like basically Dan was saying something about focused on certain talents, with companies like MLW and others allowing performers that freedom to go to other companies in which they choose. I always seem to like to focus on like a guy on one show. But as a performer, I'm sure it benefits you, in many ways, marketing, financially, everything. But what do you think about that? Like, do you think that a lot of these talents, like, if given the opportunity, what do you feel about performers staying at one company versus branching out? Like, if you're signed to a television company, like at MLW, like supposedly All Elite Wrestling, like Ring of Honor. But for yourself, I'm sure you would like to get out and perform more, right?
Of course. I mean, at the end of the day, television is used as a platform to push promote my brand. So with the vehicle of television now, that promotes my brand to other places that may have not have initially seen it. That piques interest, and that's where I can expand and make my money. A lot of independent contractors, we use television as a platform. It's not the be all and end all, but it is a vehicle to expand our brand.
Right, absolutely. And go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, continue what you were saying. That was my bad.
But just going into, we use television as a tool. We're telling the stories that the promoter wants us to tell, and thus with that, still putting our characters and our own personalities and our styles over as a product. That makes it consumer friendly to the fans or interesting to the fans. To where, hey, XYZ promotion is gonna contact this performer and see if they're interested in coming in. Now that's expanded my opportunity to say, okay, well I can go here, and now that's more opportunities for me to make money.
True, absolutely true. And Dan, I'll ask your opinion on it because again, it me, I like to be able to like tune into different companies to see one person, but I understand from a performer's aspect. All right, if I'm gonna have the opportunity, I'm gonna sure as shit, I'm gonna go out and make more money. But what do you think about that? Like as far as like contracts with other companies, something like that.
Well, I have to mostly piggyback on what Santeria Cortez said and a little bit what Barrington said because I feel like it's a case-by-case basis. Depends on what it works for the individual. I think that if you use the one particular to your advantage and get the most people to pay attention to you and get your eyes on your product and your brand as you can with one, if you can do that, then I have no problem with the person being more exclusive and saying, I'm going to stick with just the one. But I do feel like in this day and age, in today's product, I think it can be a little easier and should be a lot easier for guys to say, okay, I'm here this week, but I'm also at another place, as long as you understand where I am and what's going on. I remember going back to a story I read a couple of years ago with the Blue Meanie. He was at an independent show and sitting at a merchandise table, and the fan just walked over and said, hey, how come you're not wrestling anymore? And he was sitting in his gear about to have a match, like, next after the intermission, and he's thinking, like, what, because I'm not on television, you don't know where I am? But now we have that thing with social media. I can tweet out and say, hey, we're going to be in this town this week, or we're going to be in this town this week. And people can now understand, okay, I know where to look for them. With television, you know to look at beIN Sports, 8 o'clock Friday night. You'll see Barrington Hughes. You can see us in different platforms, other places because of our social media. And I feel like television deals, it depends on, honestly, what the person sits down and says, yes, I like this idea because you have given me enough eyes and cards that I can actually have those people pay attention, or it says, okay, that's cool, I'll work for you here, but I also want to work in other places as well. Otherwise, I just won't sign that contract.
Right, absolutely. Well, again, it's all going to be very interesting in 2019 going forward for everybody, I can only imagine. Currently on the line with me, if you're not watching me live here on Twitch, I have Barrington Hughes, I have Dan Ragu, I have Santeria Cortez. You can follow Barrington Hughes on Twitter at HughesyPoo and Instagram at TheRealHughesyPoo. Dan Ragu on Twitter and Instagram at Dan the Bowtie Guy, and Santeria Cortez on Twitter and Instagram at Santeria Cortez. Dan, let me get you on this one because, like you had previously stated before, the three of you are collectively known as the Gold Standard. How did that come about, the three of you getting together?
It started out with actually Barrington Hughes and I. We've been friends since the first time he actually got a chance to step into the professional wrestling business. Him and we matched up, and I was there from his first match, and we just slowly became friends. Every chance we get, we'd link up, we'd talk, we'd chat, we'd be on road trips laughing about the stupidest things in the world. And then one day I finally said, you know what, I really want my shot at this. I want to see what I can do with this after years and years of doubts and naysayers and all this. And we linked up together. And then from there, I heard about this person, out of Miami who was a very, very good, talented person. I'd seen him a few times, and we heard, hey, I think they're going to be going to a show we're going to be going on. Well, let's link up and let's head out together. And we did, and that was Santeria Cortez. And really, it just became one of those things where we realized, like I had said previously, that we were very underutilized. We were very underappreciated at the time for ourselves. And yeah, some people can sit there and say that that's a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. That's a little bit of an egotistical moment. But we valued our opinion. We knew our value, and we knew we were not getting the fair shot. Santeria Cortez was really very, very talented, and he was barely getting anything at that point. There was a joke that Barrington Hughes and I had. We joked that we at one point were blackballed from our local scene because people laughed and said, oh, they're not going to make it. Oh, we're not going to book them on our shows. Why would we do that? And there was 4 seconds of our life, and I'm almost thinking it really was 4 seconds where we just went, wow, that really sucks. We can't wrestle. We're in front of our hometown anymore because nobody wants to, and they all want to just do this. And then we just decided, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. So we picked up our boots, we walked out, we got in the car, and we drove, and now we're just on the road. And we called ourselves the Gold Standard because that's really in our hearts what we truly believe ourselves to be. We believe to be the pinnacle. We believe to be ourselves the best, and we call ourselves that because we truly can back it up. People try to say that they're this or they're that, and unfortunately they don't have the walk with the talk. We do believe we have the walk, we have the talk, and we have everything to go with it. That's why we call ourselves that.
Well, if you can't bet on yourselves, then, who else will? You know what I mean? So, I like that. I like that, though. Absolutely like that. So let me ask you guys this then, Barrington. I'll start with you. How do you like wrestling in a tag team versus wrestling as a singles competitor?
There's really no difference to me. I mean, the story is going to be told no matter what. It's just more players to tell a more convincing story. Singles, it's going to be, good versus evil, where, with more people, you can kind of work more angles and be a little bit more creative. But a story is a story is a story that needs to be told. So I really don't think that there's a difference per se.
Santeria, for you?
I don't blow up as fast when I tag.
Damn it, man.
But somehow I still end up blowing up when I tag. It's fun. I mean, it's just different. It's like Barrington's, along with what he's saying, it's a different story That's to be told. So depending on who we're matched up against, it can be like one of my favorite things to do is like more comedy. So you can work. I feel like in tag team you can work that in better than a singles, or it's easier to, at least for me personally. Um, it just depends. I mean, it depends on the crowd that you're in front of too. Just like on a one-on-one match, it depends on what they want to see. So if they want to see a bunch of spots and like double team moves or whatever it may be, then do it. Or do they want like everybody on the outside and just like two people in and do one spot, powder, and then two more cup, whatever it is. It's different, but at the same time, you take what you're given, you do whatever you're told to do, and you make the best of it. You just have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Then Santeria, let me ask you this then too. Obviously you could tell I didn't start off with the real cliche questions at the very beginning of this interview because it was the hot topic. But let me ask you, from the time that, how long have you actually been a wrestler, like in wrestling?
Yeah. I began training in 2013 with Rusty Brooks. So about 5 years, but I didn't have a match until maybe a year and a half into my training.
All right.
I guess like active, I've been like 3.5 years.
Okay, so then in the time that you've been active to now, again, it's only 3.5 years, but so much changes in even that little bit of time in wrestling. Biggest difference from when you started to now, other than your experience, obviously, of course.
A lot more names. Like a lot more names. When I first started, if you were on a show in Florida, it was, some of the typical, like, really good names. But now, now in Florida, you have people booking on the same days, and they're stacking their cards with like 8-10 matches each. There's more availability. There's more companies that are open. When I first started, you'd hear of a new company opening like every weekend, and it closed before their first match, like their first day. But now there's been a couple companies that have opened up, like Platinum Pro Wrestling has been there 3 years strong. Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling has been, I think, about 2 years strong. So you get these different places popping up, and they are creating kind of like their own following because they book in the same town. Beyond that, I mean, I feel like it's more accepted in society, like pro wrestling in general. It's not necessarily something that everybody automatically starts laughing at. I think when people ask you what you do for a living and you tell them, there was kind of this stigma before that you think people might laugh, but my general reactions are people ask like more like questions like when they're interested and they think it's cool. I don't know. Beyond that, I really can't think of anything else. It's just, I think everything, with the good and the bad, I think thankfully there's been more good than bad in the past couple of years.
Absolutely. And Barrington, I'll throw that same question to you. What year did you start as a pro wrestler?
I started my training December of 2010. Had my first match September of 2011. So this year as of right now, we're looking at 7 years and 3 months that I've been wrestling.
Okay, so then I'll throw the same question over at you. Biggest difference? You have a little more time under your belt. Biggest difference from when you started to now?
Biggest difference now is just the climate of the locker room. Honestly, when I first broke in, there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of, well, there's only so many spots. Everybody was gunning for one goal, and there was a lot of backbiting, a lot of double talk. Now, with so many opportunities opening about in the business, now everybody's helping one another, and they're looking at the bigger picture now, like, hey, if one makes it, we all make it. So everyone works together now as a more cohesive unit to be successful, and I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, because the way that I was always taught and told, when one match does good, everybody does good, or one person does well, everybody does well. It's kind of the way that I was kind of told back in the day. But yeah, I mean, I definitely see your point where now that there's more